Hello and welcome to Please Don't Eat the Sage, a podcast dedicated to demystifying mysticism. This season we're discussing magic, rituals, and witches, and talking with a new enchanting guest every other Tuesday. The Thursday following these interviews, you'll get to know our guests even better in a bonus mini-sode, where I give them a reading from my 90s themed Total Betty Goddess deck. Like all of our interviews this season, today's offering also has a video companion available in the links below. This week's reading recipient is best-selling author and astrologer Colin Bedell. And now, on with the show. All right, so Colin Bedell. I'm just going to do like a general totem goddess. We're not going to answer any questions. We're just going to be like, is in your corner right now.
Yeah.
Who is, one of them fell out.
Uh-oh.
We got a jumper. Let's see who it is. Okay, it's not who we hoped. We'll talk about her too. I'll pull her out later. We'll talk about her. I tell people in the intro to the guidebook to this deck that I'm not a scholar of goddesses. I'm just an intuitive that connects to them. So
there we go.
If I mispronounce his name, I'm so sorry. Please feel free to Google it. Shea, who is played by Salma Hayek in From Dusk Till Dawn.
Oh, no. Oh my God, no. But fill me in. I love that Salma's a Virgo. And I love my Virgo girls. Love them. I know her sun sign. That's nice. Good.
Okay. Well, let's give you a little mini reading on this, and then we'll talk about the card that we're both thinking about.
I know.
So From Dusk Till Dawn, I believe it's either my 90s soul is really sad. I think it's a Rodriguez. I was gonna say it was a Tarantino. No, maybe it's a Tarantino. I think it's a Tarantino movie.
Okay.
It's what, you know how like they both did Grindhouse?
Yes.
They both have very similar styles. I'm 99% sure that it's a Tarantino movie. So the character is this really hypnotic snake dancer stripper in this vampire club. So basically From Dusk Till Dawn is that like they end up at this bar that's kind of like a dive looking bar on this road trip, and they find out that it's almost filled with vampires. Like it's all
great.
Even like creatures. So she's kind of like the bait. Like she's this very sexy vampire that comes out and does snake dance. So the goddess is a snake goddess. And so the message that she has for you through the Total Betty Goddess deck is to hypnotize people with your charm.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Very fitting for you and for this entire conversation about authenticity and the things that you do so well that align so well with your astrology. The thing that I would tell you if I were giving you a read off of this card is to lean, and I know from watching that you have been doing this in your stories, lean even more into your sensuality and sexuality and let that be a part of your hypnotizing charm as well.
So just be a hoe. Just keep it.
You don't have to be a hoe to be sensual.
No. I define it as like a hoe, like owning your energy. Like fair.
Okay.
I
guess it depends on what your definition of hoe. I would encourage you. This has a very tantric energy to me.
Oh, okay.
So leaning into the idea that not just sexuality and sex and relationships can be sensual, but that every aspect in your day-to-day life can be sensual, and recognizing your sensuality in every part that you play, not just in your. Oh my gosh, can you hear the cat meowing?
Yes, now I can. But hey, meow, like the cat, like that's also, that could be kind of like erotic, right? Yeah. Wow.
So leaning into it in every aspect of your life.
Wow.
That being said,
wait, Michelle, can I tell you a crazy context about that?
Yes.
Just because this is bizarre. And I knew this was going to come up. So clearly like symbols are happening here. Just yesterday, my family and I were talking about what our Chinese zodiac or lunar year zodiac sign is. And I'm a snake. So boom. And then today it was so bizarre. I kept Googling attributes of Slytherin, the house of Harry Potter, the house in Hogwarts, which is definitely, I'm 100% a Slytherin. So just before we got on the phone, I was like eating and drinking my water and like kind of like numbing out, but not really, and reading about all these attributes of the Slytherin. And then you pick the goddess of the snakes.
Cards, no. They just
that's weird.
That's
weird.
Energy.
That's weird. Like, why? Anyway, way to go.
I feel like astrology and tarot get looped in together so often.
Yeah.
And I always have to remind people, like, because I did start doing through the education I've received from you. I'm dabbling in higher level astrology, but I still am very, very baby in it. What I've started doing is for my Patreon, I've been doing beginning of the month intuitive read of the transits the next month. So I take my tiny little like flashcards version of what I know about planets and energies, and I do a reading on that. But I also always tell people, I am not an astrologer. If you want a good astrologer, go find Queer Cosmos.
Oh, thank you.
You can break it down. So astrology and tarot are different is the point, because like these cards sometimes tell me something that I would have no idea of knowing. Like it's it triggers a story, and then that story resonates for what you're going through. So
absolutely amazing. Yeah, which astrology sometimes can do, but not to the, there's usually a rhyme and reason for it. With tarot and like oracle card decks, it's like one jumped out. What the
good astrologers like yourself, whether you give yourself this credit or not, are highly intuitive as well. And so I think there's been times that you've given me a reading and you're like, do you have any other questions? And I'll ask you a question that astrology should not be able to answer. Like it's more like an oracle question.
Right.
And he literally said to me, and you want astrology to answer this for you?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, because I want you to answer it for me, because I trust that you are an intuitive astrologer and you can find out through that. And you did, and you do. So
okay. Thank you. I'll take it.
But part of the reason that I pulled out this deck and got inspired to pull out this deck, this will happen on every interview, but it was inspired particularly for Colin because he helped me to finalize the design for one of the newer, and I needed his opinion on classic New York Mona Lisa from My Cousin Vinny. So this is the card. She would also be good for you.
Oh my God, I love it.
I can send you a picture too.
I love it. This
is the card that honestly we talked about how it might come up for you. This might be like a core card rather than an of the moment card. Like if I were going to be like, what card represents Colin's soul?
It better be this. Oh yeah, you blend. All right, it better be that part.
She plays the goddess Pytho, and that is the goddess of persuasion. So as she is very argumentative and persuasive in the movie and 100%. Can kind of, argue whether or not a faucet is broken.
Yes.
And argue about tires on a car, because she can work her way through something with words.
Yes,
a way that convinces an audience to come to her side. That feels very almost like a total Betty Goddess card. Like that. I think she's kind of more your core.
Absolutely, and that feels very Gemini, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
The ruler of the Greek iteration of Mercury, it was Hermes or Hermes, however you want to say it, and that context was god of the persuasive tongue. So persuasion, Gemini, and not even necessarily needing to persuade, but just dialogue in a way that might change people's mind.
Absolutely. Be a skillful communicator, because that's 100%. Ultimately what persuasion is being able to convey your story or your argument in a way that the other person can hear.
Yeah.
That's the fault in most arguments, is we're not hearing one another. I pride myself on usually being able to do that as well, of trying to find the translation for someone. I like to think of myself as the gateway drug to a lot of the things that I do with Reiki and tarot and things like that. And so I think that that's what that persuasion is it's taking information in and trying to find the right language, the right dialect, the right whatever to speak to the other person that their ear can actually hear. It's kind of a good metaphor for this. Speaking of translating things in a way that people can understand, is how there's those certain sort of deep English accents or I don't even know what, but Snatch, Brad Pitt and Snatch, where you hear someone who's speaking English and you're there's so much accent that you can't translate what it is.
Yes.
That's almost what this is. It's we're speaking the same language, but the dialect is so thick sometimes on one side that you have to figure out a way to be at the other side. So I guess what you and I are doing is we're learning how to put on someone else's dialect, say the thing that we want to say in a way that their ear can hear it.
Yeah, and reflect it back to them in a way that they didn't even realize they were saying. And well, that's what I heard.
Yeah.
Right, which feels almost. And this may or may not be related, but it was from Dr. Sarah Lewis in her book, The Rise. And she's an academic out of Harvard. And what she discusses, your Pisces moon will love this, is that the law can change the world and institutionalize certain things, but beauty changes people's will. That there's almost nothing like aesthetic force to change a person's will than beauty, than a way of moving people with visual, musical, like imagery to change. And so many of America's social justice movements and political progress were launched through photojournalism, through videos, through music.
Or even spoken word, a beautifully spoken speech or written
100%.
piece.
I Have a Dream, right? Frederick Douglass's work as well. He was an incredible orator, and so that moved people to abolition because he spoke and educated with such force, with aesthetic force, that people were almost under what Joseph Campbell would call aesthetic arrest. So just suspended in beauty, and that's what changed. I know, I figured you would, Aquarius rising. Aesthetic arrest. And that's also what I think of with that snake is, how can I, to the best of my capabilities, not necessarily through my own body or my own sensuality, although maybe one day, but like just provide the aesthetic force to convey a message. And I also, for a different podcast, I certainly learned that through Italy. And through as I'm wearing this t-shirt, through Italian heritage, exploring Italy and La Bella Figura, and just the way that they incorporate beauty in almost everything they do to move its people and make its culture just completely incomparable.
Actually, I'm thinking, and you just pulled this up. We were talking before this podcast recording about a reading that I gave you for your birthday, which was an emoji. Did you have a snake in your emoji? Because you have it up. Right? You had a snake on it, right? I didn't realize that until just now, but I think you did.
Maybe I sent.
So while you're looking, listeners, for Colin's birthday, because he's a dear friend, I wanted to offer him a little birthday reading. And so I told him simply to send me a string of meaningful emojis, and I would give him a reading based on those emojis. Is there a snake in there? Did you look it up?
It was just the Italian flag. I was like, let me keep this easy.
I'm seeing a snake, so there's like a snake energy coming through.
Okay. That's good. Yeah. Well, because that's where I learned like just a level of eroticism, sensuality, and it's almost cliche at this point to talk about how Italians just like, make us, but it was deeper than that. It was the fact that they really center that level of just absolute stunning maximalism, right? More is more, less is a bore. This is a country that believes in aesthetic arrest.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, it's gorgeous.
Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Your goddess serves you. Maybe go watch From Dusk Till Dawn.
I know, and I just looked it up. So it is Robert Rodriguez. Your first.
I was right the first time.
Screenplay by Quentin Tarantino.
There we go. Well. That's why they're blending together in my mind.
No, you knew what you were talking about.
Tarantino is actually in it. He's an actor in it. So that also could be where I'm getting like muddled. So,
no, but you got it. You attributed thoughtfully. Full circle moment.
Yep. It's my Gemini. It's one of my Gemini dad's preferred movies. He doesn't really have favorite movies, but he enjoys that movie. So little Gemini connection there for you.
I've never seen it, so I should watch it, I guess, because I've never seen it.
Go watch it.
Yeah. Okay. I'll tell my Gemini twin sister. But thank you for having me. This was such a joy.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And if anybody wants to learn more about you, book a reading with you, where can they head?
Queer Cosmos on Instagram and colinbedell.com.
Got it. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Colin.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
This episode of Please Don't Eat the Sage was brought to you in part by my Patreon members. So I'd like to thank Ashley, Laura, Caitlin, Amanda, and Karen. If you'd like to join their ranks, you can do so over at patreon.com/Michelle Shea. You can also support this podcast by pre-ordering your own copy of the Total Betty Goddess deck, or head over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review.